Last episode, we looked at Star Wars movies. Today, we look at Star Trek movies. Will the Star Trek movies do any better than the Star Wars movies did? To find out, watch. But the answer is basically no. After the success of Star Wars, it was a perfect excuse to reboot Star Trek, and a lot of money was put into the project. But Gene Roddenberry, who was at the helm, said, you know what? We need something more cerebral than Star Wars. So people don't really want to watch a plucky space adventure. What they want to watch is 2001. And so it made a very long, ambitious, visually stunning, special effects stunning, great soundtrack movie with horrible pacing. And I think it's fine. It's a high C tier. But yeah, a lot of people hated that, and it turned people off of the series immediately. So what the producers and studio had said then was, well, we need to get Gene Roddenberry out of this, and maybe if we made a movie that cost like a third as much with like good fun acting in it and a normal story, people would like the series again, and we'd make a lot of money. And that's what happened with Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. A-tier movie, probably the best Star Trek. Well, I guess we'll see. Spock dies at the end, very dramatic. So that adds some stakes to the story. The problem then is that now they've created a kind of in-world continuity, and everyone's favorite character is dead. So of course they need to make the movie right after that about how that character is not really dead, and the movie is also okay. Uh, Similar in quality probably to the first one. So then they're like, oh crap, we did that thing where we made a mediocre movie. We better make a better movie. So Leonard Nimoy directs Star Trek 4, where the whole cast goes back in time to 80s San Francisco to recover humpback whales. It's a crazy story, but it's fun. It gives all of the actors a chance to shine. It's an enjoyable movie. B tier. I think this is a lot of people's favorite Star Trek. It's not a great movie, but it's good. So then they thought, oh no, well, Leonard Nimoy directed a good movie. I guess we need to let Bill Shatner direct a bad movie. So then they made Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, which is kind of a laughable, goofy script. I don't hate the movie, but it is not good. Deserves its D tier place. So then they did that thing again where they said, well, we better make a better movie than that. And they made Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, which has a lot of Cold War analogies in it and Shakespeare references. It's fine. I don't think I enjoyed it when I first watched it, but I sort of made myself enjoy it. I don't think I'd really want to watch it again. All right, so then they got to move over to the Next Generation cast, but they include some of the previous cast in with some time warp, space anomaly shit, and we get the movie Generations, which is not good. In fact, it's probably worse than Star Trek Five. Um, I think Kirk punches Malcolm McDowell at the end. Best leave it unsolved. So they did that thing where they said, okay, we made a bad movie. We better follow that up with a good movie. And they make sort of the aliens inspired Borg movie. I'd say aliens inspired in terms of production design, Borg movie, First Contact. Jonathan Frakes, I believe, directs this, and it's a pretty good movie. It sort of slows down at the two-thirds mark. All of these movies have trouble with pacing, so I don't know if this is a high C or low B. I'll call it a low B. And then they follow that up with a movie which is basically like an extended Star Trek The Next Generation episode with a somewhat goofier plot and bad action set pieces. I still like this movie though. Star Trek Insurrection is a favorite of mine. I saw this in I think this was the first one I saw in the movie theater. maybe I saw First Contact in the theater as a kid, but I would have been like 7 or something. But I actually remember seeing Insurrection, and I vividly remember seeing that, and then the next year seeing Phantom Menace, and thinking that Insurrection was more entertaining than Phantom Menace. So we'll call that a C. And then they follow that with a truly atrocious movie, Star Trek Nemesis, which is a remake of The Wrath of Khan, which fails. They kill Data at the end, which is sort of like they're killing Spock at the end, except everything is done worse and nothing makes sense, and the acting is bad. Uh, so then J.J. Abrams reboots the series with Star Trek, which I think is probably between The Undiscovered Country and the motion picture. It's not bad, and I enjoyed it a lot when it came out. And it's got some energy to it, but it has a really bad villain. Um, okay. So after that comes a movie which I think marked a turning point for watching movies for me. So seeing Star Trek Into Darkness in the theater, I think it was in 2012 or 2013, must have been 2013. This was the first movie I'd ever seen at that point where as I'm watching the movie, it's clear that the screenplay was done as a series of fan service and intellectual property call outs rather than an attempt to make a movie. I remember telling my dad, whom I saw it with afterwards, who the movie totally baffled him. And I explained to him that, well, they had a checklist of things that they needed to include in the movie, and they reverse engineered a script out of that. And that was a truly dark experience. Little did I know, I'd have that same sensation many times over the 10 years that would follow. So then Star Trek Beyond was made by someone who actually liked Star Trek, presumably, because the first 20 minutes of it or so really felt like the best of the best of the legacy of the television show. But then it had the inevitable thing where it became a revenge story, and the pacing got bad about the halfway mark, and there were some fight scenes like hand-to-hand combat that looked like Power Rangers. So I don't know. I guess middle of the C tier. So yeah, looks like the Star Trek series was marginally better than Star Wars, but still really bad. Got some F's and D's and no S tiers. Yeah, but y'all should watch Deep Space Nine. That's a good show.